Hi, guys. This is Doug Jessup. With me today, an American hero, Maura Naughton. Okay, and she's going to go. Oh yeah, no. Okay, but you actually retired from the United States Army as.
A lieutenant colonel.
Okay, now that's a big deal. So tell me where and when and what, all this fun stuff. So we're gonna dive deep. What in the world possessed you to get in the military?
So growing up, my dad had been a World War II and Korean War vet, and so was my uncle. And so I was inspired by that I wanted to go into the military. I had actually enlisted in the Navy while I was still in high school. And when I got a scholarship, I called them up and they tore up the paperwork. But a year into college at Westminster College, I went ahead and joined the ROTC group. And at the end of when I graduated, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant.
Wow. Okay, now I realize that there's some interesting little, we'll call it rivalries, because I come from a military family as well, between the different branches. What branch did your father serve in?
He was in the Army as well.
Okay, and any of the other relatives, were they all Army or a little bit of everything?
My uncle was in the Army. I have two brother-in-laws that were Air Force. And I think we have some Navy.
A little bit of this.
Right.
Okay, so aren't go Army, beat Navy type.
Right.
Okay, just checking. Okay, and you're married to a veteran as well. Okay, now actually, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit of that because you and I had an interesting similarity that I had no idea. This is cool. So, how did you meet your husband?
I was on my second tour in Germany, and they have a pretty good ski club in the Stuttgart area, Patch Barrack Ski Club, and I was in charge of a trip, and he signed up for my trip. And we got together then and kind of never looked back. We had a separation when he left Germany to go to a civilian fellowship, and I stayed, and then I got shipped off to Desert Storm, and his unit, because he stayed in the reserves, was activated, but he never made it over to Saudi Arabia or Iraq. But we got together when I came back from Germany, and we were stationed at Fort
We've got the wedding picture. Okay, so tell me about your service in Afghanistan and that area.
So I was not in Afghanistan. I was in Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
Kuwait, Iraq.
Just about everything except Afghanistan.
So the tour was about 6 months, so it wasn't too awfully bad. And we ran the logistics base for the 7th Corps.
Oh, wow.
So the 7th Corps was shipped out of Germany with all their equipment to Saudi Arabia. And there was the 82nd, and there was one unit out of the 5th Corps that was shipped. But that's how we fought that war, was shipping people from Germany that were already on the ground. The wall had come down, and things got exciting in the rest of the world. You know, it was a good time to be
interesting way, yeah.
Stationed in Europe. It was wonderful, but the rest of the world kind of didn't have that barrier to keep them in line.
Yeah. Well, you know, you got to have somebody to always help with the policing, I guess. So where were you trained initially? Where'd you go to boot camp?
So my first boot camp was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, because I had enlisted in the Army Reserve. And when I came back, that's when I got into ROTC. So ROTC Advanced Camp was at Fort Lewis, Washington. And then when I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, I went to Fort Lee, Virginia, which it's not called Fort Lee anymore. We had a little bit of a mix-up on all our names.
Yeah, well, you know. Well, the other thing that I think people may not realize is, I mean, there's a fair amount of women in the military now, but not so much back then. What was it like being a woman officer?
So I really didn't take a lot of garbage. So I was okay. Um, there was advancements and there was barriers.
Ah.
And you just had to balance that. And I had a career that I would not trade for anything. You know, I don't want to go back, but I'm glad I did it. So,
So what are some of the things that you basically carried forward in your life from serving in the military?
well, I was really shy all through school, even in college. And you just can't be shy in the military, especially as an officer. You'll get run over. Um, so having a voice and using that voice is one thing. Backwards planning. Uh, you start with the event and work backwards. That has helped me a lot because we tend to socialize a lot, and even when it's not an important thing, it's just a social thing. You can't have everything ready in 1 hour, and I was a logistician, so I know that very well.
You're the organized one. Okay, so you need something to get done, call Maura. So for the women out there that are watching this show right now that are thinking, you know, yeah, I'm thinking about the military, what message would you give them?
I would say at least try it. I was afraid when I signed up because I thought, oh, I'm going to just do 2 years. And then they wanted me to go to Germany. Well, there's 3 years. So I'm like, 3 years when you're, 18 to 21, 22, that seems like a lifetime. Uh, it's a big part of your life. It's not. So I got to that 3 year point, and so I extended and stayed an extra year in Germany. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went ahead and went for another 3 years. And they shipped me off to Fort Ord, California, which was a great assignment because then I was able to go to graduate school there in Monterey at the Naval Postgraduate School. Then back to Germany, and that was about the 10-year point that I knew you start getting good at what you're doing. And I met Jim, and I just knew that I was going to stay in. And you start having success, and you go from a leadership role to your specialty, a logistical role for me, and you just keep moving on up. So when I retired, I was in command of a logistical battalion at Fort Irwin, California.
Well, with another entry into Family Heritage Stories and Maura, I'm Doug Jessup. We'll be right back.